Hello and welcome back to Design Thinking, the online course. Design thinking is about application. You've heard me talk about theory, about stories on design thinking, its application as you've seen it, or I've described to you and you visualized it in your head. But here, I would like to demonstrate how it can be done. What better way to actually get the flavor of design thinking that like seeing it in video here. So here with me I have people who have experienced applying design thinking and practice in real life problems, real life situations, real life customers, real life people whom they have tried to help, and they're still in that process of helping them. So we will look at how to apply design thinking, and in particular we will look at the first stage of design thinking called empathize. Empathize is the first and foremost and possibly the most important step in this entire journey that we have with you. So there I have four of my friends, colleagues, ex-students, and people we bounce off ideas, I bounce off ideas with. They will sort of demonstrate to you how this part of design thinking is done. The customer journey mapping that I was talking to earlier about. Customer journey mapping, just to recap, is as if you are going through the entire experience from the eyes of somebody that you are trying to help. Don't let the word customer mislead you. They don't have to pay you. It's just somebody that you want to help in some way. So we are going to demonstrate that with a case that my buddies here are going to work on. So over to these people, and for before we start that, I will tell you the major steps. Just to again recap, is the first step that we normally involve in customer journey mapping is to know who this person is, persona. So the persona is in three parts. One is the age of the person, second is the geography, and third, just for fun, we will even name this person. Okay, if this person is a male or female is important for your case, go ahead and do that, but I don't insist. So if it's important for you, definitely by all means you should call him or her, and give it a particular sex, and you can go with that. Otherwise it's not mandatory. So that's the first and foremost that you have to be doing, which is to identify the persona. Now again, a tip here which I found it particularly useful is to have multiple personas who will be interacting with, or whom you're going to track, whom you're going to shadow. So one could be a 60-year-old gentleman, the other could be a 40-year-old lady. So you could have these two types of personas and you could be shadowing them as well. So that's as far as the persona is concerned. The second that we saw the last time was the faces that we track them. So just to be very simple, write down the activity that you are trying to map. So what happens before and after is also equally interesting, because you want to find out how this person got around to doing this activity and what happens after the activity is done. So to simply put it, it is before the activity, during the activity, and after the activity. So these are three distinct phases, and you can even expand on it and give it more phases if you like, but this is the bare minimum. So another tip here, for each step before, say for example, it's good to have at least three steps in that, just to get a full idea of what's going on. And same with after, and same with during. Again, more the merrier. If you have 7 different steps, 8 different steps, it's okay. That's what you're tracking, that's what your customer does, so be it. So bare minimum is 3, 3, and 3. So you'll have a total of 9 steps in all, minimum a number of 9 steps. So that's what we're going to do. Now we use sticky notes, as I'm going to show you here. These are sticky notes that are very useful. You will find one of my friends was joking that design thinking is probably the single most reason why these sticky notes sell so much. I'm not here to advertise for sticky notes, but they are pretty useful because you tear them off and you can put them back in, and you can place them in one place, write whatever you have to write, or even draw stuff and move it around. It's very easy. And with a table like what I'm going to show you, it's easy to move things around, and the team can participate. They can look at what is going on. So it's pretty useful for that purpose. Otherwise, yeah, the good thing for me will be to invest in companies which are making this. But for now, we will stick to the uses of design thinking for purpose of customer journey mapping. Okay, so over to the team. The gentlemen here are who have discussed with me and have explained to me what is it that they're working on. We will do a customer journey map. So you heard me talk about the steps, and that's what we're going to do. So I will be sort of a bug on the wall for most of the time. I'll just be observing what you guys are doing. In case there are things that you need help with, I think that I can probably butt in and probably help. I will do that. Otherwise, mostly you're sort of auto-directed. Okay? Okay, over to you guys. So here are my post-it notes for you.
Right. So guys, what we are going to do now is we are going to consider school going student's life, and we are going to create a persona around a student and try and see what activities he is going through in his school, probably find out any problems in his activities. Like sir said, we are going to jot them down as before, during and after, and see how we can map them with respect to the customer. So we'll start off by creating the persona for the student.
Right. Let's give the name for the student first.
Yeah.
Can we name him Sam?
Yeah, let's name him Sam.
And he's definitely a school going student. So probably his age would be somewhere around 14, 15.
Right.
So let's have Sam with age 14 years. Let him be studying in an international school in Pune, India.
Right.
So we have, I think, our first persona. So in school, what would be the core activity that Sam would be doing?
Before getting into the activities, we'll just make a different post of this persona.
Okay.
So that we can do everything beneath him.
Okay.
Right.
So that's our first persona.
That's our first persona.
Okay.
Now let's get into some activities.
That he's doing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Probably most important thing in a school for a student is taking down notes.
Notes. Right.
Right. So let's consider the activity of a student taking down notes while a teacher is teaching a
Okay.
class.
So the first activity that we are mapping with Sam would be taking notes in class.
Yeah.
So let's keep that activity just underneath
Yes.
Sam. So now, like sir mentioned, we have to have 3 different scenarios related to that activity.
Right.
What Sam does before that activity takes place, during that activity takes place, and after that activity. So what would be some of the activities that Sam does before he actually takes notes while he's in class?
Yes. So in class, like first Sam will be opening his bag and taking his notes out.
Okay. Some of the activities that happen before this actual process of taking notes in class is that a teacher would enter the classroom. That would be something that happens before.
Yes.
Then teacher would either ask the students to take out their notebooks and textbooks, or they themselves would have the notes and text ready. That would be activity number 2. Teacher instruction and notes, right? And what else? After that, probably the teacher would start instruction,
Start
right?
teaching.
Right. Start teaching.
And eventually Sam tries to get what the teacher is teaching and tries to jot down some notes in his
notebook.
In his
Right.
notebook.
Is the profile of the teacher, like which subject the teacher might be teaching, is that important in this case, in this activity, before the activity starts? Imagine a teacher who comes inside the classroom.
Right.
He might be a science teacher or a maths teacher.
Right.
So will that matter in this case?
Matter in the way he is doing this particular activity?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that might be something that will affect the way he takes notes in
Yes.
class.
Yes.
Right.
Probably for a language class, he would be more into textbooks,
Textbooks.
poetic
Right.
textbooks, and all
Right.
such kind of books.
Right.
And when it comes back to mathematics, it's more of writing down practice and
Yeah.
rough work.
So in our class, what I've seen some of the students in class are writing in a certain way for languages and for actual notes. Imagine I've seen my peers writing on the textbook when it is a language class. For example, if the teacher is teaching a poem, then probably the notes would be jotted down on top of the actual prose or the content. Whereas if it's a maths class, he will probably have its notes written on notebook. So he's brought out a good point. So yeah, the subject
Subject
and how the note taking activity will take place
depending on the subject.
depending on subject.
I think this we can keep
Yeah,
it
so that
as
will
the
be
before
the
activity.
list of activities that
will
would happen probably
Probably the list of tasks that would happen before the activity.
before the activity
Right.
happens. Right.
So this is before. So now we can move on to what would happen while the activity
Activity is taking place.
One tip, let me butt in here. One tip I can offer here is that if you can write down one activity per note, I mean, here you have written down 4 activities. So you can have 4 notes with each activity there. It sort of lays out what the sequence of events is. Okay, like a story. So this scene happens, then this happens, then this happens. Okay. So that really helps. In case you get a insight later or you go to the field and you observe that, hey, he actually, the subject teacher walks in and he does something different, then you can actually swap the notes, your post-it notes, that is, and then that makes sense from the field.
So yes, so we'll again.
Yeah, a good idea to tag it as before.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
So we'll remove this one off.
Yeah.
We'll take
That, but a starting point, I think it's good so that you have written it down. But I would recommend you taking one per.
One per.
Yeah.
Got it.
So then
Teacher enters the class, then there's a teacher instruction, or students take out their notebooks and relevant textbooks from their bag. Would be the second activity that we have identified.
teacher instruction or books of the bag.
Books of the bag. Yes. And the next step would be the teacher starts instruction or teaching,
Then
and then
student taking down notes.
or student comprehending what needs to be, because the activity is
Before,
taking
yeah.
notes, right? So the
So,
student comprehending and coming to an understanding of what needs to be written.
Right. So we've come up with 4 steps what Sam would be doing before the activity
of
taking notes.
notes in class.
Nice.
Right? Great.
Right. So now
So are we on the right track till now? Okay.
Thumbs up.
Perfect. Perfect.
so then we can move on to the during
stage.
timeline of the
Right.
activity.
Right.
So what would be the first step Sam would be doing while taking down notes? Probably take out his pen,
Yes, I think the tool
open
would
the
be really
notebook
important.
and the pen.
I think
Take
Pen
down
or
his pen.
pencil.
So
there is one more point. Like the first thing might be selecting the book or the pen that you might have. For example, if you might carry, Sam might carry a lot of notebooks, right? And all the notebooks might be in a different sequence, or it might be topic in a different manner. So
Right.
if imagine it's a maths class and the teacher will never want Sam to take out his science notebook.
Right.
So selecting the notebook
Right.
also becomes an activity.
And I
That's
think
what I
there will
think.
be different notebooks
There will
for
be
each
different
subject.
notebooks.
I
be
think, but
here.
that would be
Be here.
pretty much covered in
teacher
what
instruction or
is
books of the bag.
books of the bag, right?
That would be an activity before taking
Before
down.
taking down the notes, him selecting which particular note
Notebook he
need to
should
be this particular classes.
If you consider that to be a serious problem, you can note that down, saying during this step, he is not so happy because he has to go through 5 different notebooks or 7 different textbooks before he can land up on the right one. So that could be a problem that you can note down somewhere.
Okay.
Because that's actually you're doing fact finding as well, right? One is the fact that you're shadowing this person, but your ulterior motive is to see, where can we help this Sam in his life.
Right.
So that could be one place.
Absolutely.
So yes, we'll take that as a
This
point and
idea.
Yeah,
put it right
yeah.
next
Just put it as a subclass. Yeah, that's perfect.
First activity would probably be him having to take out his pen,
writing tool and writing a pen and open his book.
open his book. Yes.
So this would be first step of during.
Right.
Now next would be
Next would probably be either him continuing with what he's already writing, or him having to look back or check as to what he had written earlier relevant to that particular topic that was taught in class.
right.
Right.
Right. So teacher might ask where did we end up in our last
class.
and maybe Sam might come up with he might go back to
Go
his
back
previous
to his
pages,
pages
verify
and-
his previous chapters
Yeah.
and notes and come back. So I
Come back
think-
to write down his new notes.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
So I think verification of previous classes notes.
Notes might be an activity that he might do in this particular.
Recap of the classes.
Or yeah.
Yes,
so
yes.
recap would be a teacher's choice again.
Yeah,
It's
but-
not an activity under Sam taking down
Notes in
Yes,
class. Right.
yes,
Right.
agreed,
Right.
agreed.
Right.
Agreed.
So verification of
Previous notes.
previous class is not right.
Next thing would be him having to have a fresh page. Once his current page is done, he would probably choose to start off with a fresh page.
So selecting the page to start as current
Next,
notes,
yeah, next line, next set of notes.
right? Selecting a page to
Right, next notes.
take right as next note.
Yes. And I think this would pretty much be an activity that he keeps doing back and forth, and
Okay.
new page and going back to
Yes,
his old page.
Then
Yeah.
probably depending on the chapter what teacher teaches, he might be taking down a written content or a diagram. So that is
Right, right,
Something
right, right, right.
Graphical illustrations.
Graphical
graphical illustration or a written content.
Right,
So it would be like depending on the chapter or the teacher's
right, right, right.
thing, right? So noting down either written content or graphical representations slash
Referential-
diagrams.
Notes.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you have a simpler word for that?
It came to me later, so I had to add that. So I think we've got 4 activities during the taking down of notes.
Right, 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 right.
So any suggestions with respect to this?
You're cool.
Yeah.
Cool. So then we can move on to the after timeline of
right,
taking down
right,
notes.
right, right.
So what would be Sam doing after he completes taking down his notes? Probably
Typically, I guess there would be an end of instruction from the teacher is when Sam would probably think that now it's time up for me to
stop writing.
stop my taking down of notes. So teacher would end his or her instruction would be one step.
So following teacher's instruction to stop.
Stop, yeah.
Teacher's instruction.
Again, I think it would be like the one that we've mapped.
Yeah.
Like either it could be a teacher instruction saying that I've stopped my class for today, or it could be an automatic understanding from the student side that today's instruction is complete.
Right. Then probably he might verify what
Verify
is
what is written. That might be something that it does.
You might
go
want
through
to
his handwriting whether he's written it
Yeah.
neatly or not.
I'm
His
not
diagrams
sure.
ended up neatly or not. Maybe he needs to give it to someone else
Yeah.
to do the diagrams
probably
part.
someone else.
Personal experience.
More like
So that is a possibility. We
Yes.
keep that as an activity.
So
We
we-
see.
This, I think you need to check this point
This
with the
point
market with real
real
case.
customers.
So this is checked.
Yes, yes,
So
actually.
this is from your own experience. Good. Let's document that.
Right.
Because this first step is about documenting it from your own experience and from what you have observed.
Right.
So that's there.
right.
Next is to actually go into the market with your target segment and see what do they actually do. And then these things may change. You may add a few things also. Got it.
Right, sir.
Okay.
Probably verifying his notes or
Yeah.
cross-checking his notes from that particular class.
And if he feels like underlining or marking something, he might
That might be an
Important
activity.
points.
Again, all comes under this. Yeah, right.
Yeah. So this is step 2.
And then I guess
there can be two consequences. Either he can put the things in his bag, or he can share those notes with someone else. For example, imagine I'm a slow writer and someone is a fast writer. He completes the things fast. I might skip out some topics, right?
yeah.
missed.
So I might need to write those things
Right,
again.
right. So he might either share what he has written if he's a fast writer with someone who's not as fast and wanted to
Yes.
check what was taken down by him. Yes, that is very well an option.
Either share his notes or
So I think we can put that as
the
two alternate activities.
Why not? Yeah, you can fork it also.
Yeah, fork it down, right?
Yes.
either share notes or
Close
Close
that particular notebook and
keep it in bag.
keep it back in the bag.
Apart from this, can we think the assessments, the class assessments that a teacher gives, can be a post activity?
Then I think that would change the activity itself, right? This would be probably something that is
Yes.
very personal for him.
So
The
the
activity
suggestion would be to qualify this, saying taking notes in a non-assessment sort of situation. Okay, good point. Because the scenario changes and what the steps are will change based on the activity. Good one, yeah. As you observe it, without any solutions, we have done that. One last step, which is important, is to track the emotional status of your of the student, of Sam. So there are times when he is happy that wow, this is great, okay, that I could do this, and there are times when he's not so happy, meaning sad, and you jot that down. And there's a third one where there's no emotional. For me, the example that I probably gave in class is getting down from a bus. There's no emotion associated with getting down. You got down, you got down, right? So that's it. So here also you can see if from your own observations or your own personal experience, there are places where you thought, wow, this is great, this is nice, or no, it's not something that I'm happy about. Yeah. So there's something that you can mark with a simple thing like a smiley or a sad face on the post-it itself.
Teacher entering the class would probably qualify as smiley or
Let's ask Bhagat.
Say, sorry.
let's take Sam. Consider Sam likes writing.
likes writing and
So-
likes to be in class and learn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That
that is the ideal situation.
ideal situation that we want to map.
So
So let's give a happy,
Happy-
smiley when the teacher enters the
Teacher
class.
enters. Wow,
right.
Okay.
That's happy Sam.
that's great.
Then teacher's instruction books of the bag. Maybe this is not.
Yeah.
He gets to know that it's not going to be a free class.
Free
and-
class, yeah. So it could be a sad
So it
emoji
can
there.
be
He might be
Moderate.
taking a lot of notes.
Yeah.
moderate emoji. Like
And another thing is, see, he has to go through all his list of
Yeah.
textbooks and notebooks, find out where this particular teacher's notebook is, take that out, come to the relevant page.
no, it's to Sam.
So
Sam cannot be happy like this.
yeah, Sam cannot be.
Doing
I
all
don't
this.
think
All
it will
this
be a
thing,
very.
it won't make Sam happy.
Yeah, and meanwhile, the teacher might be saying something that is important, and he is not able to give his complete attention to what
Right.
she is saying.
Teacher is
So
So this is a
not so
confused
happy.
Sam.
not so
Yeah,
happy.
confused Sam or a not so happy Sam probably.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Or a confused Sam.
Okay.
Okay. So you put an exclamation and a question mark. Okay.
Then teacher starts teaching.
I think that would pretty much be
We are
normal.
thing.
Yeah. Straight face.
Straight face.
Straight face. Okay.
Then student comprehending what needs to be noted.
Yeah,
So
this also might be an activity that could be difficult to execute.
well,
But
since
as
we've,
Sam is
since
Yeah.
we've considered
Sam
Sam
has, yeah,
yeah, so let's make it a happy
happy
Sam.
fam. Yeah, right.
Right. Right. Now that's the emotion for the before steps of the
Before
activity.
steps.
Now let's get into the during part. Set up his pen and open his book to write. I think it's
Yeah,
very bland, no
yeah.
emotion. He's just
Yeah.
verification of previous notes, maybe a curious Sam.
Yeah, it might be something that would again be a hassle for him to go to where exactly the
Yeah.
teacher is asked him to go or he wants to go.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I think yes.
Not so happy.
Right? So selecting a page to write his next notes is
pretty straightforward, right?
yeah.
No emotions.
adding notes.
Noting. So writing content or drawing diagrams.
Drawing diagrams.
I think this should be the activity he should be happy with.
Happy with, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, he likes to take
Yeah,
notes.
that's the whole activity
That's-
we've considered. So that's the main
right.
part.
And his persona is that way, right?
So that's the emotion for during, and in after the activity, teacher's instruction to stop taking notes.
He'll be very happy.
No, because he was happy
Happy
when she entered.
enters the
He
class.
entered the class.
So maybe he want to draw more diagrams and write more.
yeah,
Okay. Okay.
So we are considering an ideal student who wants to write.
Right.
We are
right.
in a yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So he'll
So-
be happy.
No,
Yeah.
he'll
No,
be sad.
Sad.
Yes, sad.
Sad.
Okay.
Yes.
Because he's not able to.
Or not able to write anymore.
Very
Now,
good student.
cross-checking his notes from the particular
And I
note.
think that will be pretty
It's his
straightforward.
own
Straightforward.
personal activity, so yeah, straightforward. Then either share notes or close that particular. I
Yeah.
think it's sharing notes would be a happy.
Happy,
lot of
yeah,
people will be
definitely he
happy
would
to
be
share notes.
feeling happy when he's sharing his notes.
So yeah, that's happy Sam again.
Okay, pretty good. This has turned out to be very nice. Two things from here. Like I said, when you go to the market, you can confirm whether the steps are identical to what you had imagined from your own experience and from what you have seen. The second thing to do is to confirm whether the emotional mapping that you did, sometimes called the empathy map, and people do detailed empathy map.
Right.
We're going to do a very simple one. This is how we do it. Is to check whether they're really happy. I mean, you've taken an ideal student. Of course, you can pick those students, those ideal students. You can ask your teacher and get those ideal students, and then see if that is really the case. Observe them, not ask them. So this is my tip to you: is observe, not ask, because they may tell you something, which is what you want to hear. But in reality, they may be doing the opposite.
Something
So that's something that you will have to do on the field as well. So those are two things that you will have to note down in your field activity.
Right.
Okay, great. This is very nice. I am assuming you're also going to detail one more persona. That was our discussion. We will assemble again for another. So we're going to clear off the desk. We'll show you what you've done. And then probably we'll assemble again and we will do the second persona. Because for this case it matters because the journey of writing notes and dealing with notes doesn't end here in this scenario. That's why we're going to do a second one. In case it is in your scenario, this is all you need, only one. Like in mine that I illustrated, Mrs. Avni's journey from home to office is what I had to track. Then you can stop with just one. But in this case, we're also going to do another. So stay tuned. We're going to show you the next one.